Hello and welcome back to the True Crime Guys podcast. I'm Lauren.
And I'm Michael.
Well, we got a new year upon us. Finally, 2020 is coming to an end. Christmas. How was your Christmas? How was your Kwanzaa? How was your...
My Christmas was great, man. Yeah, my Christmas was great. The kids got a lot of the things they wanted, and that's all I really care about, you know. I got a new guitar, so got some inspiration there. Yeah, got me a new electric guitar.
You know what? All the creepers will benefit from that because we get to hear the
You'll be
sultry
hearing
sounds of that new guitar on the intros.
Oh, I'm sure.
Get ready for some more guitar intros now.
No doubt. There's going to be it's going to be making its appearance here pretty soon on the show. I'm pretty excited about it. So it's a jazz master. So it's kind of guitar I've been wanting for a long time. So pretty dope. Pretty dope.
Right
Old
on.
Dad came through again with that. But
yeah.
My Festivus didn't go as good as yours. I heard your Just the Banter. I called it Just the Banter 12 and a half. Did you see that?
Yeah, because it's half an episode, it's 15 minutes.
It's half an episode.
And it's only one of us.
And half of
one
True
the
Crime
two
Guys. Yeah. But, dude, that was, I thoroughly enjoyed your Just the Banter 12 and a half. I listened to it before I posted it, and I laughed out loud multiple times. It was a good time.
Nice.
And I was like, I'm not adding anything to this. I'm just going to put this up. So,
nice. I did my best Bill Burr impression. I was drunk on some hard seltzers. And,
it was hilarious.
I just got on the mic and rambled because me and Mike were supposed to get on together.
Yeah.
And it was late. It was
bad.
really late on the East Coast, so I don't blame you. It was like past 11 o'clock or close to midnight when we were supposed to get on. And he didn't make it, so I just was like, well, I'm here. The mic's on. I'm just going to record some shit and send it over. If he wants to post it, he can post it.
Yeah, it was great. It was great. We'll do that. Maybe I'll do that in the future. You know, one time when we can't link up and you can't make it or whatever, I'll get on there and do my half episode. But that was fun. I enjoyed listening to that very much. You should do that more often.
Patreon.com/TrueCrimeGuys, $5 a month gets you access to Just the Banter, and you can hear my drunken rambles on the Christmas Eve is when I recorded that.
Yes.
And I
on Festivus.
Talked a lot of Festivus. I complained about my family members and stuff. And
If you're not sure what Festivus is, look that up. Look up the Seinfeld clips. That was so funny when you brought that up. I was like, that's me. That's my holiday. Festivus. Yeah.
Just put a poll up in the corner.
Just put a poll up and talk and complain around it or whatever you do.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that was great, dude.
But let's dive into this week's episode. We got something pretty crazy here. I'm not going to give too much away. We have basically a sadist, someone who really enjoyed perpetuating terrible, heinous, violent crimes on elderly women. So it's pretty rough, but also there's something pretty shocking about it. The killer, I think, would surprise you.
I agree, 100%. Sorry, there was a siren going by my house.
I was going to say, it sounds like the police are on to the next serial killer.
Yes,
out there in North Carolina.
They are. They're always coming by around here looking for me. I mean, for them. No, I'm just kidding. But no, this serial killer, sticks out in a lot of different ways. Different motives, right? Different tactics, and a different person altogether than what would typically be your serial killer, even though, it's probably in the title. But this is interesting. This is another Eileen Wuornos style, but a little more of a thrill seeker than Eileen, I think. Yeah. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, and more directly violent. Like, no, there was when there's a gun, there's a separation of violence there, in my opinion, as opposed to like deliberately beating someone or using a knife on someone
or strangling someone. It's
you're
much more
simply
personal,
pulling
more
a trigger
violent.
like Eileen did, and I think there was more premeditation, whereas Eileen, it was like more kind of spur of the moment,
opportunistic.
Yeah, opportunistic.
Yeah,
but different motives, and this one, let's get into it.
Let's do it.
Dana Sue Gray, I saw her out shopping again today. I wonder who paid for those Nikes and designer shades. Dana Sue Gray, who are you pretending to be today? There are better ways to get that rush you crave. coming, baby, till we in the grave. Dana, Sue, Gray, I saw her out shopping again today. I wonder who paid for those Nikes and designer shades. Dana, Sue, Gray, who are you pretending to be today? There are better ways to get that rush you crave.
All right, our case this week, if you haven't caught by the title and by our intro, it's a little different in that it's a serial killer who's a woman and who is a sadist and directly enjoyed killing people, specifically elderly women, in really
sure seemed
heinous
like it.
ways. I mean, it was very violent crimes here, and there was financial motive, but which is, I think, is the common theme with female serial killers. It seems to be almost always financially. I can't think of one that wasn't financial.
Right.
Like you think of a Sacramento Sweetie was financial, 100%.
Yes.
Aileen Wuornos. There was some. You could argue that it had to do with she grew to hate the men that had mistreated her over the years, and then she started to see every man as what she hated.
Right. Yeah.
And was
And
lashing
this-
back out at them. But also she would rob all of the people she killed as well. So
Right. Something else she has in common with a lot of other female killers is the fact that she worked in the medical field.
yeah, right.
And-
Nurses. A lot of nurses are serial killers.
Yes. I mean, they are. You know why? I think it's just because they deal with people in vulnerable situations.
Yeah,
And
maybe they get
they-
desensitized, like we've talked about
Yeah.
with like paramedics and firemen and stuff, where you see that stuff all the time, and then not that it makes you not care, but at the same time, it makes you more able to deal
mean,
with it.
You know, another example is like people who work at rest homes, or senior citizen places and things like that. Like those people, every time I visit those places, I hate visiting those places, and it's not because of the older people. It's the way that I see the older people getting treated that just makes my stomach turn. I'm like, I know you deal with these people every day, and I know that some of them are senile and some of them can be irritating, but it's just the lack of empathy and the lack of patience. But I guess day in and day out, like you said, you become hardened to it. You're like, okay, Mr. Anderson, you got to take the damn pill. You going to take it now, or are you going to die? Like, what do you want to do?
Right.
They
become like Ben Stiller and Happy Gilmore. It's like,
yeah.
your back's gonna hurt because you just pulled landscaping duty. Check out the name tag, Grandma. You're in my house now.
You're at my house now.
That's like day 3 of doing it. It's like you go into it
Right.
with like these grand ideas of like helping people. And it's like day
Right.
3, you're like,
They're
all right,
driving
Dorothy,
you
you're
insane.
taking your pills, damn it.
Open your mouth, Dorothy. I'm getting a slingshot. I swear to God.
Right.
Yeah. I can see that. It's only human nature, right? To get tired of something and to get short fused. I
Get
guess when you
jaded by
deal
it.
with things over and over again. But still, it still takes a special person to take advantage of those people in those vulnerable situations in the way that a lot of these nurses have. And the
It's
way
like
that
any
Dana did.
profession, like there's good police and bad police. I'm sure there's
Yes.
nurses that are truly saints. I think most of them are like
Yes.
90% or more.
You have to be to go through all that shit.
Right. Yeah, and they treat every patient with care as they should. But
Yes.
then there's that 10% or hopefully less. But
Hopefully less. Yeah. 10%
that
is a lot.
get jaded by it. Maybe they got their own things going
Yeah.
on, whatever it is, and they take it out on the people.
Yeah.
But that wasn't the case. She was not like she was killing her patients specifically. This serial killer. But let's dive into it. Let's not give too much away here. We're gonna start with the community that was shaken by these crimes and lead you through this. So Canyon Lake was where a lot of this largely occurs. Canyon Lake in California. It's a city built around a golf course and a man-made lake carved from the desert of Riverside County, California. So it's like a retirement community, very safe. They had 24-hour security, 12-foot walls. And for retirees like 86-year-old Norma Davis in the 1990s, this was the place to live out your remaining years. It was very safe and communal, and you could go golfing and whatnot. And it seems like the kind of place I'd like to retire in, honestly.
Yeah, it does.
I do play a little golf now, and I always kind of laughed about it. I was just like, it's a stupid sport. And then when you play it, it's pretty fun, and it's something you can do. I think that's the big thing, is like you can continue to do that sport into your even your 80s.
Yeah.
It's just not that strenuous.
I think that when I get older, I think I'll want to be around more people as well. I think like now, I don't. I like living out away from people. and away from everything and having my space and my land. And I still may be that way when I'm older. I think it just depends on how my body ages. You know what I mean? Like if I'm still physically capable to take care of myself and do my own thing, then I think I would still like to stay out. But
Yeah.
if I'm at a point where I really can't do anything physical anymore, and the only fun I have in life is through conversation or through board games or through whatever, then obviously I want to be around people.
You're going to
know,
be that old guy at the nursing home that's got the guitar and everybody's circled around and you're playing them songs, and they're going to be you're going to start to go nuts and hate the old people too, because you're just gonna be like, all right, I already fucking played that one last hour. Daryl.
I'm not playing Devil Went Down to Georgia again, Charlie. I swear to God. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, for sure, man. For sure. I'll have my son in there sneaking me in weed. It'll be great. Well, hopefully
Yeah,
it'll be
right.
legal by then. Hopefully it'll be really legal by then and we won't have to worry about
It
it.
better be. It better be,
God.
or else what the hell?
Jesus, seriously.
Just get in your automated car and get over here, son.
That's right. Get over here. I'm running low. I got a concert to play in the cafeteria at 1.
Right? They're up my butt about it.
You know I can't perform sober. No.
Yeah. Yeah, so 86-year-old Norma Davis was living in Canyon Lake in 1994, and then suddenly on February 16th, 1994, she was found deceased. She was found in her home by a neighbor and friend, Alice Williams. Alice had become concerned when she hadn't heard from Norma in a couple days and went over to check on her. Norma lived alone, and being 86, her neighbor had reason for concern, having not heard from her, and feared that she might find her dead in the home, but from natural causes. You know, as you would
Right.
you would expect to find an 86-year-old person that you hadn't heard from. If you suspected they might have passed away, you'd suspect to find them, you know, in their chair or on the floor, dead from natural
Right.
causes. That is not how she was found. Unfortunately, Alice Williams walked into a absolutely terrifying scene. It was far from natural. Norma Davis was in fact dead inside her home, but she had a wooden-handled utility knife sticking out of her neck and a fillet knife sticking out of her chest. Her neck had been cut from the front all the way to the back, and she was almost decapitated.
Yeah, she tried to. It's like it almost. The detective from the documentary said it looked like someone tried to saw through her neck.
Yeah.
like it wasn't just a clean slice from side to side. It was sawed.
Yeah.
That right there speaks volumes about this attack.
This is a scary criminal, someone capable of doing this to an 86-year-old woman. Like, she's basically defenseless, you know, and
Right.
it's such overkill that there's no way to look at it other than this person got off on the violence here.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. Other than a broken fingernail, Norma had no defensive wounds, and there was seemingly no struggle. Detectives determined that there was no forced entry into the house, and Norma had always was known to keep her door locked unless she was expecting a visitor. So this is a little bizarre. There's no one had broken in.
But she
seems
was
as though
expecting-
Norma had let this person into the home.
But she was expecting a visitor that day, though, right?
Was she?
Yes, she was. She was expecting a friend that day, and that's why the door was unlocked that particular day.
Yeah. That gives you a little insight that this killer may have known
Right.
the victim here. Detectives found a size 6 female Nike shoe print pointed toward the kitchen. That was basically their only piece of physical evidence that they could find. On the floor of Davis's condo, a smear of blood was found on an armchair. A ripped out phone cord was also found, which was used to strangle Norma. This would become to be a common thread in the crimes of this serial killer. This person liked to use phone cords
Right.
to strangle.
Man, I'm so
police-
glad house phones aren't a thing anymore, right? How many people died from phone cords? You talk about like Richard Ramirez, he used phone cords a lot. Gacy probably used phone cords. Bob
Yeah,
Rodella.
it was readily accessible right there on the wall.
And everybody had them. And then you're pulling the cord anyway, so they can't call 911, right? So you might as well use it. I feel like
Right.
it kind of escalated in that way. Like they're going, like the criminals probably originally thinking, oh, I'm just going to unplug the phone. Wait a minute. Let me go ahead and use
Right.
this. I mean, that
Yeah.
sounds dark, but I guarantee you that was how that progressed.
No, definitely. And then once they did it once, it was like that was become a go-to because it
That
was
became
effective.
a go-to. Right. And you
Like you
you
don't have
touch
to
the
bring
least
you don't have
amount
to
of
bring
things.
rope with you. You got one right there on the wall.
Precisely.
So police would notify the next of kin, which in Norma's case was her former daughter-in-law, Jerry Ambrust. Jerry had moved Norma into Canyon Lake after her husband, who was Norma's son, had died. She was shocked and believed that it was a random attack. So Norma's son was Jerry's late husband.
Right.
Yeah. This gets a little confusing because there's a lot of family ties to all this whole case. And so there's a lot of like daughter-in-law, father-in-law type of. It goes two layers deep too. Like daughter-in-law of daughter-in-law. You're just like, what in the hell? I was just sitting there racking my brain trying to figure out the family ties with this case.
Right.
There's a lot of multi-marriages going on too. Like it seemed like everyone was like, "Oh, that was my second husband." That was his son-in-law, and it was just like, "What in the hell are you talking about?"
But it's not like detrimental to this case. It's not like you have to keep up with all this shit. You're still going to enjoy this case and this story if you keep up with the main people here.
Yeah. Jerry was actually the first suspect that police looked hard at because she had access to Norma's house and wore similar shoes to the print found at the crime scene.
And similar size, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were very suspicious of her. Poor lady.
Yeah, so they're looking at this older woman, Jerry, who was close with the victim. And it's just a really not the type of person you would expect to do a crime like this, though. Jerry was interviewed in a documentary we watched on YouTube, which the link is in the description. And she just seemed like a sweet old lady. It's just like hard to believe her that she was capable of damn near sawing an 86-year-old woman's head off. I just can't. It'd be hard to picture that.
And I think the cops were only following her just out of due diligence. They're like, there's no signs of breaking an entry, and then your shoes match, so let's just check her out. But even the detective said the more time he spent with Jerry, the more he realized this was not our person. This was not the killer. Yeah,
and right away they separated her and her husband, Jerry's husband, and they, their stories matched up and everything checked out, and it was a long shot.
Oh yeah.
But they started to realize that they could keep her close because if the killer did in fact know these elderly women, which we'll get to because it continues, there seems to be connections between these women, and Jerry's also a, kind of glue that's holding this together. They're like, she knows, we know Jerry knows this person, this killer. We've just got to get it out of her.
That's right. Or help Jerry figure out who it is, because at this point, Jerry, it's not like Jerry's hiding it from them.
No,
I don't want it to sound like that either. The way you phrased it, like they're trying to get it out of her. It's not like she knows or she's
get
part
it out of her
this.
Because she doesn't even know it's in there.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Okay.
So 12 days after Norma's murder on February 28th, 1994, the killer would strike again in the same community. 66-year-old June Roberts was killed in Canyon Lake. This quiet retirement community, gated 24-hour security. This 66-year-old woman was now murdered as well, and this community goes into a hysteric state. She, like Norma Davis, lived in Canyon Gate. Someone had strapped her to a chair, strangled her with a phone cord, and hit her in the face brutally with a wine bottle. Her autopsy included the phrases, quote, moderately deep ligature furrow and 6 by 3 inch purple contusion. So this killer is once again striking in very violent fashion.
Yeah. And again, you're talking about elderly victims where this type of force is really not necessary.
No, not at all.
If this was not your intent. If your intent was to simply rob these women, honestly, you probably could have just robbed them.
Yep.
You could have went in there with a mask and just robbed them. So it speaks a lot about this killer. It speaks a lot about her sadistic nature.
No doubt. The killer had then rifled through the belongings. Her purse was open, but it was unclear exactly what, if anything, had been stolen. Many of the residents in Canyon Lake were terrified at this point. Some moved in with loved ones, and a group of elderly widows began sleeping in big groups at designated homes. They believed that there was safety in numbers. Many residents theorized that the murders were committed by a cult who engaged in ritual sacrifice.
You can't have this was coming up soon.
You can't have like a serial killer in the 80s or 90s without there being a reference to a ritual sacrifice. It was always Satanism or something along those lines.
Right. I don't think they do the whole sacrificial ritual in someone's house. You know what I mean? I don't think they're going to leave them there. I think most people who were taken for rituals and cult activities are kidnapped. Like with the was the Mark Kilroy episode that
Yeah.
we did when he was captured by the Mexican cartel for that ritual.
Mm-hmm.
They have areas set aside for these rituals. You know, I don't think they're
Exactly.
performing them in the middle of a gated retirement community.
Right.
But that's the first thing people
what
jump
was
to.
the evidence? I mean, it was
Yeah,
a
there's
brutal,
no
They were
evidence.
brutal slayings, but was there candles or like circled around the body
Right.
or?
Right. Were there somebody carve a pentagram into him or something? Like, what are we
Right.
going off of?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's silly.
So the Canyon Lake residents felt convinced that the killer was an outsider that had made their way in, a gardener or something along those lines. But the police disagreed. They viewed this as someone that knew these victims, was able to gain entry that way because basically the victims let them into the house.
Mm-hmm.
And Detective Joseph Greco, of the Paris Police Department, led the murder investigations of Norma Davis and June Roberts. And this was he was a young guy. He had already received an award for saving. What was he? He had saved somebody from a burning car or something along those lines. And
Yeah, but this
he
was only
new
his-
to homicide.
Yeah, I was
Go
about
ahead.
to say, this is only like his first or second homicide case.
Yeah, Norma Davis was his second
Second
crime,
case,
so he'd
okay.
only done one before.
That's right. Still very fresh, but very educated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Greco suspected that Roberts and Davis, they were connected due to the evidence that he had collected at the case. He knew that Jerry Ambrust was likely the key to finding the killer because not only did Jerry know Norma, but coincidentally, Jerry also knew June Roberts. So Jerry Ambrust knew both of these victims, and she's got to be concerned at this point for her
I
own
know,
safety now.
right?
It's like, am I next on this list, whoever this is?
Seriously, that's the first conclusion I would be thinking. And
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure she's expressing these worries to the police as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, which kind of is fueling their investigation.
Absolutely. Yeah, so initially, Greco would kind of grill Jerry Ambrust, trying to pull any, memory out of her brain that could, is there anyone that could be potentially, that knew these two victims, that is capable of doing something like this? And she could not think of anybody that she knew that knew both of these women that could have done these murders.
Right.
And so, unfortunately, it's a waiting game. And thankfully, on March 2nd, 1994, they would get their first break in the case. Someone had been using June's credit cards on extravagant items. So, we knew her purse had been rifled through, and it seemed like something had been taken. But it turns out it was credit cards from June's purse, and someone had been using them. Hair and nail salon treatment, shoes, perfumes, you name it. All the trappings of an extravagant lifestyle were being this credit card were being used for. Police were convinced that the killer was a woman, but who? So they had the size 6 Nike shoe print inside the home. They had the fact that these victims had allowed this perpetrator to gain entry into their home, which would lead you to believe it'd be someone who wouldn't be threatening. It's more believable that these elderly women would let a woman in,
Right.
a young woman, especially if they knew them, into the home,
Absolutely.
even in a time of hysteria where someone else had been killed in the community. And now these credit cards are being used for a lot of things that a woman would use them for, getting their hair and nails done, buying nice shoes and things along those lines.
Yeah, it was pretty obvious.
Yeah. So detectives started to get an emerging image of the killer by questioning the workers and owners of the stores that the credit cards had been used at following the murders. So now they're going to all these stores where Norma and June's credit cards have been being used, and basically some of the shop owners remembered that it was a blonde woman in her mid 30s to early 40s, big frizzy blonde hair, and a hairdresser that they talked to even said that she had a little boy with her when this woman came in, and that the boy referred to her as her other mommy. And so the detective was thinking, okay, we've got a stepmom situation. The killer may be the stepmom to a young boy. And
Right.
on the appointment book, the stylist had even written down the little boy's name, first and last name. So now they had something
Ooh.
else to go on. So they have a
Right.
profile of this killer, a blonde woman in her late 30s to early 40s, and has a stepson who's 5 years old with a bowl haircut and blonde hair as well, the little boy.
Right. Which you think this is like a nail in the coffin, but it was actually, to my surprise, it was harder for them to pinpoint this boy than I thought.
Right.
Right? Because they originally start scouring like the elementary schools and stuff, and I'm like, couldn't you just like look in the phone book for his last name? And I don't know.
Right.
I just
Who
feel like
knows
there's
if it's
easier
a
ways
real
to go
name,
about
though?
this.
Who knows
Yeah.
if it's a real name? Because the killer had used Norma Davis's name, I believe, when she went in to get her haircut. So she wasn't even using her real name.
Right.
She was
well,
aware that
well,
there would
Norma
be heat on
Davis.
her.
Norma Davis was on the credit
on the
card.
credit
I'm sure.
card, yeah.
So, yeah, you might as well, if you're going to pull this lie, you might as well go all the way. I mean,
That's true.
not like your hairstylist is going to ask for ID. So
That's right. They were a little more careful with credit cards back in those days too. Like didn't they have like the little swipe thing that would go across the card and like print out the info onto paper? But they would always cross check with an ID and stuff. Then I feel like they don't do it as much now. When you use the credit card places, it seems like they just swipe your credit card and you're good.
oh yeah, they don't care now. The transactions are so small, and then the banks protect you from all that type of stuff. If your card gets
Because
taken
also they
and
get the
used-
funds like instantaneously now. It seems like, whereas back then they had to didn't they have to call in and get this to make sure, because a lot of times people didn't even have like their credit card was maxed out and they were still using the card.
Oh yeah. There was all kinds of weird shit people were doing, all kinds of scams and stuff people were doing with credit cards and checks.
Yeah.
And you think about, when's the last time you seen somebody write a check? Boy, that shit used to just be taken as word. I remember like going grocery shopping as a kid. My mom would have like hundreds of dollars worth of groceries, and she'd write a check, and we'd walk out, and I'm like, man, that's all you got to do? You know, even as a kid, I realized I could just write anything on there and hand it to them, and they let us leave. I mean, what are they going to do? Follow us home?
Yeah.
I mean, I know
Speaking
you
of
can only
which,
write so many bad checks.
90s
but-
movie, Blank Check. Remember that?
Yeah. I don't. But what is it?
Oh, yeah.
Similar story? I haven't seen it.
Well, there's this kid who gets hit by this thief. He backs into him while the kid's riding his bike, and the guy gets
Yeah.
out and he's like in a rush, and he's like, here, he basically signs a blank check and hands it to the kid. And so the kid takes the check to the bank and writes $1 million on it. And to his surprise, they actually cash it and give him $1 million.
Oh shit!
And so he's like a 12-year-old kid with $1 million, and this is like I want to say the movie's from like the 90s, so it was like a
Yeah.
shitload of money. And
Oh, of course.
he starts of course living like Richie Rich for a while, and then of course the criminal guy who got the $1 million taken comes after him. I don't know. That's as much as I can remember from it, but
Oh, okay.
these
Oh,
are the kind
okay,
of
I see the
shenanigans that could
plot.
happen with checks back in the day, guys.
That's right. Remember old Frank Abagnale? Remember the checks he wrote?
Oh,
man?
yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
my
man.
gosh.
Yep.
I'm telling
Catch
you.
me if you can.
Yes. Catch me if you can. I think it was crazy. The checks he wrote.
Yep. Yeah. So sadly, when the police come, they get all this info, and they're thinking, okay, now we can take this to Jerry Ambrust, give her this description that it's a woman, blonde hair, she's got a little boy with her, and Jerry Ambrust is going to be able to tell us who this is. She's going to know her
Definitely.
because she knows the victims. This killer knows the victims. They're all in the same social circle. However, unfortunately, when they give all this info to Jerry Ambrust, she still can't think of anybody. And this is largely due to the fact that this boy, I think that threw off Jerry, because Jerry does know this killer. She doesn't
Yes.
realize it yet. She knows the killer, but the killer, the person that matches this description wouldn't have had a child with her, because this was a new thing. Jerry wasn't
least
even
to
aware
Jerry's
of
knowledge.
this new
Yeah.
relationship. This was a new boyfriend that the killer had gotten, and this little boy came along with that new boyfriend.
Right.
And so then on March 10th, 1994, another attack occurs. 57-year-old Dorinda Harris was attacked at her job at an antique store. So now this killer is getting even more brazen, walking into a business that is, in operation currently.
Yeah.
Granted, it was an
And-
antique store. There was no other customers in there. It was kind of dead at the moment. No pun
Right.
intended.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
right. And she's attacking someone 30 years younger than her first victim.
Oh, that's
Like,
true. That's a good point.
that's
57
bold
is
as well.
not nearly as...
Hey, listen, a
helpless.
57-year-old person still got some fight in them. Like they may not
also-
be able to run like they used to, but I guarantee you, under the right adrenaline, a 57-year-old could throw down if they had to.
And honestly, also, if I'm unarmed, there's no better place. Maybe not. Okay, maybe like a gun store, but like an antique store, I can't think of a much better place to get attacked and be unarmed and be able to quickly arm myself. Antique
An
stores
antique
are
store?
filled with all
Yeah.
kinds of old war knives and
Oh my
who
God, they
knows,
are.
battle axes and all kinds of shit, man, or even just sharp objects. There's
I love
so much
antique
glass
stores.
and porcelain. I could fuck somebody up in an antique store.
No doubt. I'll bust them over the head with like some kind of brass lamp or something, bro. Then things weigh like
Right.
50 pounds. Yeah, like you
Yeah.
said, there's something.
Dude, that should be like a battle royale fight to the death TV show. You put two badasses in an antique store and let them use whatever they find in there to kill each other. That'd be great.
Oh my god.
Maybe they're people on death row, who just did heinous crimes, and now we get to watch them battle it out.
Oh, okay. I was just thinking like some terrible way somebody could kill someone with like a Lionel train set or something. just like turning up the electricity on and throwing them on the tracks. I don't know. It can get real
silver butter
sadistic
dish,
really fast.
Just take it to the dome.
Yeah. Oh damn! Cut somebody's throat with a license plates. There's always tons of license plates. I'm amazed at what license plates go for. Y'all,
Seriously.
if y'all got any old
rusty license plate from some random state.
Bro, I'm serious. Like $40-$50. Like even if it doesn't matter what state it is. It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
it's like I see them
people
here.
people probably like to collect all 50 states. So if you got the state they need,
of course, and the older the better. The older the better. Like they like those old ones that are like two colors. Like like all the old 2-color ones. Like here in North Carolina in the 60s, they were white and green, and that's it.
Nevada, you still see them around. The blue platers,
the blue and white,
old school locals here. They like the dark navy blue with the white lettering, and it's very basic. You call them blue platers.
Yeah, you guys have the blue plate, and then California's got I think the black and yellow.
Yes, yeah.
Right. See, so everybody's got like their 2-color thing, and but those plates, y'all, if y'all find them for less than like $20, you should snatch them up because them things.
There you go.
I don't know why license plates are going for a lot.
In a pinch, it can mess somebody up.
That's right. They're very sharp on the edge. And in worst case
bend
scenario,
the
you can
corners
give them
and turn it into a shank real quick.
That's right. Be creative.
That's right.
It's terrible advice.
So this is what Dorinda Hawkins should have done, honestly. But she was caught. It was a surprise attack, to be honest. So Dorinda had been working alone that day at the antique store when a woman came in to buy a picture frame for a photo of her deceased mother.
Why is it always a picture frame? You ever notice that? There was something else I was watching where some killer came in, and maybe it was a movie just recently, and somebody came into a shop and they're like, "Oh, I'm looking for a picture frame." And I think it's because it has to be custom and it has to be perfect.
There you go.
So you're gonna have to
if
get
you
someone
work
to
at one of
lead
these
you
places
around.
and someone comes in asking for a picture frame, get your shank ready.
That's right. That because like who needs that? Like get your picture framed at a craft store. Get the hell out of here. What are you doing?
Right.
What are the chances we have your exact frame? And we probably got a great piece of art in it already. It's an antique store.
Yeah. So when Dorinda bent over to get something, the woman suddenly strangled her, put a piece of rope over her neck. Dorinda begged and pleaded with the attacker for her life. The woman said simply and softly, "Just relax." So Dorinda was literally pleading, saying, "I have children," and this and that, and the woman was just completely cold and callous and just said, "Just relax. It'll be over soon," essentially.
Yeah, that's what nurses say to people when they're administering.
There you
things.
go.
Think about it, dude.
Yeah.
Just
Keep
relax.
them calm.
Yeah, they're used to dealing with people up in arms and excited and afraid. Mm-hmm. So I feel like that training helped her in this situation.
That's right. So the perpetrator then took $5 from Hawkins' purse and $20 from the cash register. An hour later, the woman went on another shopping spree using Roberts' credit card. Dorinda Hawkins, however, was different from the other victims in that she had survived the assault. It might be, I didn't think about it. It might be the fact that she was 30 years younger, like you said.
She was.
A 57-year-old woman would be able to withstand a lot more.
Well, look,
and we've talked so many times about how hard it is to strangle a person, and actually kill them. From everything we've studied all over the years of this podcast, it's a common theme. Almost every serial killer that talks about what they've done, they all say it's harder to kill somebody than you expect.
Right. And I think she bit off more than she could chew here. She was getting cocky, and she thought, I'm gonna do it in a public place, and I'm also gonna do it to someone younger.
Yeah,
I think
she's less likely to take the time it takes to actually strangle someone until they die. She basically, when you're in a business that's anybody could walk in at any moment.
Right.
She probably didn't take the time that it takes to do it, and therefore Dorinda would survive, thankfully.
That's what I was going to say too. We don't really know the circumstances. Maybe someone was approaching the store and she saw him and she let her go and snuck out, or maybe she just felt like she was
might have heard
caught.
the bells ring at the door when the door opened.
Yeah, exactly. You never know. I really think something saved Dorinda's life. I don't think that she just gave up trying to kill her and left.
Right.
I think something happened here. That just wasn't Dana's way. She's not going to leave this loose end on purpose.
Right. So Dorinda would survive the assault and was able to give detectives a description of her attacker. The next day, the story was in the newspaper, and of course, the description that Dorinda gave matched up to what detectives had already gotten as far as like a description from all the places that these stolen credit cards has been used. Once again, it was a woman in her 30s or 40s with large frizzy blonde hair. Pretty as well, a pretty woman.
Which was a
before the
popular
new-
hairstyle then, though, too. I mean,
Yeah,
you're
definitely like that
describing-
80s big frizzy hair.
Yeah, you're describing everyone her age around that time.
That's true.
Especially
My
in
mom
LA.
had the same thing going on back then.
Yeah.
Before the news could get Jerry Ambrust, however, she got an unexpected visit from her daughter-in-law, Dana Sue Gray. So the news has now gotten out that this attacker has struck again, this time at an antique store. The person survives. There's this, basically like what do you call it? Pictures put out, drawings of this, what do you call it? A composite sketch.
Composite
of-
sketches, yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry, I blanked as well.
and so before she can even get this, though, she didn't get the newspaper yet. Jerry Ambrust, with whom the detectives had been really prodding to try and find out if there's anyone that she knows that could have possibly done this.
Right.
She gets a knock at her door, and it's from her daughter-in-law, Dana Sue Gray, and that is the name of this episode for a reason, because that is the serial killer with whom we've been talking about killing these elderly women. Dana Sue Gray was just a horrendous serial killer. And let's go through her timeline of her life. She was born on December 6th, 1957 in Southern California to Beverly and Russell Ambrust. She shares a birthday with the Greek Freak, if you watch
Giannis.
basketball. Yeah. Judd Apatow, love some of his movies.
Okay.
Great
Judd Apatow, yep.
comedic director. And Richard Speck,
Oh, fuck
fellow
him.
serial killer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck that guy. Well, 2 out
so
of
that's
3
a-
ain't bad. 2 out of 3 ain't
It's a
bad.
big day in serial killers. You got a big name female one, and you got Richard Speck, who everybody has heard of.
Yep. Old Richard Speck. He was a spree killer, though, right? Technically. Isn't
Yes.
that the argument?
Yes.
So we want to get our terminology right here. We don't want to get one starred. They don't even know who Richard
geez,
Speck
yeah.
is. These guys are true crime guys. Oh God.
Yep. People get particular.
Oh yeah.
Dana's father, Russell, worked as a hairdresser and had 3 previous marriages before marrying Beverly, who was a former beauty queen. So Dana's mother, she was very self-centered. She was a narcissist. She was a former beauty queen. And that was a large problem with Dana's development as a young woman. Her mother didn't seem to care much about her. She cared about herself a whole lot more. And Dana seemed like to be just kind of a burden to her. And then after her mother and her father, Russell and Beverly, get divorced, her mother wins custody. So she's stuck with her mother, who only cares about herself.
Right.
Russell and Beverly had several miscarriages before Dana was born. Beverly was an aggressive, vain woman who frequently maxed out her husband's credit cards. That sounds familiar. They finally divorced when her husband found her grappling with an older woman who had angered her. So she also had anger issues. Also sounds
shit.
familiar. Sounds
Yeah.
like old Dana is just a chip off the old block here.
I know, right? You know what though? All things considered, her childhood really wasn't that bad. I mean, when you look at Eileen Wuornos, you look at like William Bonin, you look at some of these other guys who you're like, okay, yeah, I get how you turned out. I mean, her parents divorced and her mom was self-centered.
Yeah. But to what extent do we know the daily levels of manipulation and just what molds a person's brain into being
That's true.
a narcissist as well? Like Dana would grow, and it also could be some level of genetic thing too, but development played into it. Dana was taught to be a narcissist and take what she wants at all times, just like her mother did.
Right.
And to be honest, Dana lived a life that was pretty successful for a long time. We'll get into it. She's a successful nurse. She was a thrill seeker. She was a skydiver. Like she did a lot of stuff before she went into serial killing. It was kind of a last resort. It wasn't something that she had built herself up to, like we see with a lot of serial killers, where they start, being a voyeur in their teens, and then they rape somebody, and then they go into killing. It wasn't like that. It was not like there wasn't this stepping stones. It was just she dove right in when it happened in her 30s,
Right.
which is pretty rare.
Yes, it is. It really is. I feel like
So,
she had nowhere else to go. At least she thought that way.
Yeah. So Dana Sue was 2 years old at the time of her parents' divorce. Her mother won custody, and afterwards she rarely saw her father. And this is around the time she began acting out to get attention. Beverly
What,
was not
at
fit to
3?
be a mother. What
Like,
were
you
you
know what I'm
saying?
saying? I mean, if she's 2 years old when they divorce, like, your parents being divorced is a normal thing for you.
That's true.
Like, I'm not trying to be cold or nothing, and I'm not saying it didn't have an effect on the other children. I don't know if was she the youngest, or I'm
I
sure
think she
she
was the
had brothers and oh, she was the oldest. Okay, so even then, so like her parents being divorced was
She
a
had
normal thing,
stepbrothers.
you know. And she began acting out to get attention at like what age? At like 3, 4? All kids act out to get attention at 3, 4.
That's yeah, no doubt.
So it's just, I don't know. It's just a lot of the stuff that I feel like they put in the documentary about her childhood were kind of cop outs. It's like we're trying to make an excuse to humor the family or to humor her who's still in prison. I don't know what it is, but it just didn't seem like enough to add up to killing people in the way that she did. You know,
Right.
I
No,
feel like
there's
there
no
was something
excuse
off.
for it.
There was something else off there. I just don't get the retaliation.
Yeah.
That's all.
So Beverly, whenever she would attempt to discipline Dana, Dana would retaliate by stealing money to buy candy and would occasionally fly into fits of violence. At 5 years old, upset that her mother had been giving more attention to her stepbrothers, Dana cut a large hole in her mother's favorite dress with a pair of scissors.
That's a little. That's a little bit sadistic for 5 years old. At 5 years old, if they're
Vitriolic.
doing that, I'm like, that's not a good sign. That's not a good sign.
No, not
you
that
know?
they would go to those lengths at that
Yeah.
age to
Yeah, that's
sneak
not a good
around
sign.
and do something like that. Dana grew up in Los Angeles in the 1960s. In school, she did not get along well with other students and did poorly in her classes. She was suspended from school many times for forging notes to get out of class, and she tended
Been there.
to run with a rough crowd. She fit in better with them, and there was something that was mentioned in the documentary about that her and these rough kids. One
Yeah.
of the activities they would like to do is they would go up onto rooftops and take animals, I guess cats and stray cats and dogs and whatnot, and
Yeah,
apparently catapult them off the roof into pools.
guaranteed it was cats. But
It had
yeah.
to be, right?
Dude, and also this is the 60s. I know we've talked about this a million times. Dude, this was, I hate to say normal, but ask your grandpa. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? It's just one that, like, catapulting animals off a roof into a body of water, that seems
Pretty mild.
pretty mild compared to the shit that I've heard my grandpas and my great uncles and stuff tell me. The shit that they did to animals is like, oh my God, how are y'all not serial killers? Like by today's terms, like y'all should have killed someone already, you know. And
Yeah.
but I don't know. Like I said, again, this is just
We always look
something
at
that
these
was
serial
typical.
killers from the that were killing in the 70s and stuff, and they grew up in a time where it's like, yeah, they were torturing animals at this age, and we're like, well, by today's standards in 2020, probably most people were quote unquote torturing animals back in the 50s and 60s, like what you're talking about. So you
That's
almost
right.
could say that about anybody's childhood.
That's right.
back
And
then.
it just depends. The way you look at it depends on how they turned out. Like when I look at my soft-hearted, loving grandpa now, and I'm like, okay, you were just a dumb kid who was bored and under some bad influences. Like I get
Yep.
it. But if he grew up to be a serial killer, I'd be like, oh yeah, we saw the signs. He was torturing
Yeah.
cats at. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And I think that's
exactly.
how her childhood is being determined. It's in hindsight of what she's done. It's. I don't think it's
Yep.
because of her childhood. I think it's just in hindsight that it all looks bad now.
When Dana was 14, her mother developed breast cancer. Dana decided to become a nurse after watching hospital nurses treat her mother. So it seems like she's on a good path here. You know, she's been a rough child, hung out with a rough crowd, didn't do well in school. She's acted out for attention, all these things, but she goes on to become a nurse after witnessing, them take care of her mother. It seems like
Right.
pretty mature. But after her mother's death, Dana moved in with her father, but was forced to leave after her stepmother found drugs in her room. A few years later, she became involved with with a skydiving instructor who would get her pregnant twice and both times convince her to abort the pregnancy, something that apparently she resented. And I can see why.
Yeah,
for
who
sure,
wouldn't?
especially if it was like really, I mean, she didn't have to, obviously, because he's telling her to. She could have kept the babies. But if
Yeah,
he
but
wasn't
she don't
willing
wanna
to
go at
be
it
a
alone.
partner with him, yeah.
Right. And she probably fell in love with this guy. I mean, if he got her pregnant twice, you know what I'm saying? And then and it took him to make her abort the babies. Obviously, she wanted to keep them. Maybe if he saw a relationship with her and showed some commitment or whatnot, maybe he didn't want to be with her. I'm not saying he should have, but if he did, I feel like this is a different story right here. I feel like maybe she gets what she wants. She lives a life where she can be a thrill seeker, and maybe this guy's well off, or I don't know. I just feel like this is where it like takes a bad turn.
Yeah, I'm sure skydiving instructors make pretty good money.
I would think so. Just, I mean, to pay for the insurance and the liabilities and then all the equipment alone. Right. I mean, I feel like and then
it's not cheap to go skydiving.
That's what I was about to say. And then just for one person to skydive, how much is it? I mean, right. I have no idea. I have no urge to do that. I don't have wings.
If you're a skydiving instructor listening to this podcast, let us know what you make. Man, come on, tell us.
Yeah, and also why. I mean, we're on the ground, man. Just be happy.
And also, do you ever listen to us while you're falling from the sky? That's kind of cool.
Cool.
Has anyone ever listened to us?
You think you ought to pull the parachute now?
Right.
Sitting there trying to fast forward through our commercials, forgets to pull his parachute. Damn it! Inadvertently killed by True Crime Podcast.
Right. That's one less download. Damn it.
God. Yeah, that's fucked up. That is. It's not a real skydiver. It's just figuratively speaking.
We don't just look at all of you as downloads. I promise. We love each one of you.
No. Love you.
Dana graduated from Newport Harbor High School in 1976 and was living with her skydiver instructor. His name was Rob for the next several years. So it didn't click with me that she had those 2 abortions when she was real young in her teens. She hadn't even graduated high school yet.
Right. That makes a lot more sense, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she would, even though she did bad in school, she would end up getting it together enough to get her diploma and graduate from high school in 76. And for the next few years lived with her skydiving instructor boyfriend, at which point she made it through nursing school. So he must have been making pretty good money because he helped her get through nursing school, gave her a place to live. And like you said, it could have been, no one would have ever known her name had they just had those babies. And who knows? I mean, maybe it would have been terrible. And maybe it's better that those babies weren't born.
Right. Maybe she ends up being a mom like her mom.
Mother like her mom.
Exactly.
She would go on to become an expert skydiver. Her favorite jumps were over the Grand Canyon, in large part because it was more of a thrill because it was illegal. You weren't supposed to be skydiving over the Grand Canyon. But man, that would be awesome, wouldn't it?
Yeah, no. What are they going to do, though?
Dude.
I mean, you're already falling into the Grand Canyon. I mean, what are they going to do now?
Yeah, come find me. You got your escape donkey waiting at the bottom.
Yeah, some like cop skydiver just comes out of the air and snatches you before you can pull your chute. Hell no.
An aerial battle ensues.
They shoot
she pulls out her sharpened license plate and finishes him.
Oh damn! Then they pull out one of those nets that you shoot with the balls around the end, so it wraps around her. She plummets to the earth. Nah, epic battle.
Man, it's pretty intense, like an action movie.
That is. Should write this. It's some kind of fan fiction, true crime fan fiction going on here.
In 1981, she graduated from nursing school, and for the next few years, she had an on-again, off-again relationship with a guy named Chris Dodson, who was a windsurfer. So she's a nurse by day, but she's out doing just crazy shit in her free time, skydiving and windsurfing.
Yeah, she's an adrenaline junkie, man.
It makes me wonder if she had some sort of brain trauma when she was younger. We typically hear that with serial killers, especially ones that are violent to the extent that she is. Like Richard Ramirez and one. Her killings were very similar to Richard Ramirez. You know how he did this to elderly women too? Yeah. These heinous crimes. Yeah. And we know he had that big bookshelf fall on him and really messed him up. And he was having seizures and stuff as a kid.
Right.
But typically research shows that people who are really into thrill-seeking things like this, skydiving, stuff like that, a lot of times they had brain trauma when they were younger.
Interesting.
You don't have the same level of fear of consequences and things like that.
Oh. Huh. Or maybe just the high is just so great that you don't care. I feel like that's some people. Like they get such a rush off of it that they're addicted to it. It's like that's what they want. They want to be afraid for their life. They want to be afraid for their life again and then make it. And then be afraid and then make it. I don't know. Man,
I got over that shit by the time I was like 15 and I had enough broken limbs and things like that. I was like, no, I'll play it safe now.
Yeah. Hell
I watch and I'm like that old person. I'm like, it's not worth it.
It's not.
It looks like fun, but it ain't worth it. The hospital stay you're gonna do.
Exactly. Some stuff just ain't worth it, man. Listen, I heard real quick story, okay? There was a guy this is a friend of mine, his friend who is a youth pastor at a church, right? And they were all out in this parking lot, and he was hanging out with the kids that, he teaches or whatever every week, and he was trying to do something fun with them. So he was like, all right, how about this Sunday night, everybody just like, you can bring skateboards or bikes or whatever and just ride around the parking lot, and we'll just have a good time. I'll get pizza for everybody, and we'll have fun. Well, one of the kids brought a little penny board, right? Like one of those little small, if you're not familiar with a penny board skateboard, guys, it's like about a foot long skateboard that is pointed on one end. The other end typically has a little tail that comes up. It like arcs.
It's barely big enough to fit 1 foot on it.
That's right. I think of Bart Simpson when I think of penny boards. Like it's just that little tiny board that you could barely fit on. And this youth pastor guy, he was riding, he's only like 33 years old, okay, at this time. He's riding one of these penny boards, and he goes to ride it up the ramp on one of these sidewalks, and it shoots out from under him. The guy flies up, lands on his head and his neck and his back, and gets up, right? And then later falls over within seconds. They call an ambulance, and he dies on the way to the hospital.
Oh, shit.
Gone. Just like that. In perfect health.
Just trying to relate to the kids and hang out with them and be cool.
Just trying to have fun. And he rode skateboards as a kid. Like, it was just a freak accident. It just hit something just right. It flew out from under him, and he died that day,
I was
bro.
pretty damn crazy on a skateboard as a teenager, dude. I was the guy.
You're lucky.
The kid that I snapped my arm doing it because I would try to do rails, and we would go try and find the biggest sets of stairs that we could jump down. I mean, literally like 8, 10 or more stairs.
Yeah.
10 feet up. You're going full speed as fast as you can go. A lot of times churches, coincidentally, funny you were just mentioning a pastor or whatever. That was where we would a lot of times like to go churches because they would be empty on the weekend or empty during the week or whatever, and after hours, and you could go in there and they'd have sets of stairs you could jump down and things like that.
Yep. And you just never know, man. It's just a freak accident.
Yeah, and of course we wouldn't wear helmets because it wasn't cool to wear helmets. But man, had this guy been wearing a helmet, he would have been fine, or at least not nearly. He'd be alive right now for sure.
Oh, absolutely. He would absolutely be alive. That's right. That's right, man. You got to protect your head. It's like...
Yeah, you don't get another one. It doesn't heal the same as
like
if you break a bone, it doesn't heal the same. Your brain is very delicate.
Right. I know it doesn't look cool, but death doesn't look cool either. Like, I promise you. I don't know. It's just it sounds like such an old person thing to say, but I don't give a shit. Like, I tell my kids, I'm like, the human body is more fragile than what we think. Like, yes, we can take a lot, but also it's so fragile. The tiniest little thing could be the end of your life. And that doesn't mean that live in a bubble, but it just means be smart,
Right. So Dana wouldn't want to hear our preaching here about
no.
About being safe and whatnot. She was excelling in windsurfing, golf. Well, golf's pretty chill. And she was taking frequent trips to Hawaii to participate in different activities. And she was living a good life at this time. I mean, it was kind of crazy to think she goes on to be what she becomes. Because I mean, she's actively working as a nurse and doing a lot of fun activities in her off time and seemingly living a pretty cool life.
Yeah.
However, in October of 1987, she married a man named Bill Gray at an upscale winery in the Temecula area. Bill was a fellow sports enthusiast who had known and admired her since high school. So, not high school sweethearts, but they did go to the same school, and he kind of had a thing for her.
Okay.
Dana, during this time, was a pretty serious athlete, very fit, and pretty with blonde hair. The marriage quickly got into trouble, however, when Dana dug them deeply into debt. At this point, she was also estranged from her other two half-brothers, having burned many bridges in a dispute over her aunt's will. So,
yeah, I could see that.
Willing to ruin relationships for her extravagant lifestyle. I mean, whether it was with her boyfriends, husbands, her own stepbrothers. Not the type of person that you want to have in your family when a death happens, because it's going to be a scrap for every little. They're going to try and get every little thing from the deceased person's estate.
Oh, definitely.
During this time, she was a labor and delivery nurse at Inland Valley Regional Medical Center, and she lived with her husband in a gated community of Canyon Lake. So Canyon Lake, which we've talked about, where she later perpetrates these heinous crimes against old people.
Yep.
They had several business ventures together under the name Gray Matter. obviously a play on his last name, Gray,
Right.
and now her last name after marrying him. Gray left her husband in early 1993 and moved in with their friend and her lover, Jim Wilkins, and his youngest son, Jason. Jason would be the little boy that she was seen with. That was her new boyfriend, and this is leading up to the crimes. Right, in 1993, she perpetrates
Right.
these murders. In 1994 is when she becomes a serial killer.
Exactly.
In June of 1993, she filed for divorce from Bill Gray. However, this was not finalized until after she would later be arrested. So she was still married during the time of these crimes. In September of 1993, she and Gray filed for bankruptcy to stave off foreclosure on their Canyon Lake house. Although the value of the house had greatly increased since they had purchased it, they owed much more on the house, so they were upside down. And she deeply resented during this time her mother-in-law, Jerry, who we keep mentioning, Jerry Ambrust. She deeply resented her because Jerry had been taking care of her mother-in-law, Norma Davis.
Right.
What I was saying about layers of family ties here.
Yep.
You got Dana. Dana's mad at her mother-in-law because her mother-in-law is taking care of her own mother-in-law financially instead of her daughter-in-law.
Right.
Dana's going through bankruptcy and whatnot, and she's not getting any help from her mother-in-law. She resents
She's like,
her
why
for
are you
this.
helping her? She's old. She's like 86. Why are you helping her? Help us. We're
Right.
losing our house. Yeah.
Exactly.
I get it.
Yep. On November 24th, 1993, Dana was fired from the hospital where she worked after she was caught to have been misappropriating Demerol and other opiate painkillers. So she's got an addiction, I'm thinking, to these different medications that she's not supposed to be taking or stealing from the hospital. And that's a pretty quick way to get fired from that job and be hard to get back into the medical field after that gets on your record.
Oh, God, yeah. You call it stealing medications now. Yeah, you done, man.
Yeah. So we're getting close now to her first killings. On February 14th, 1994, she sent word through Gray's parents that she wanted to meet with Bill. Now, they were separated at this time. As we know, Dana's living with her new boyfriend, and Bill's kind of keeping his distance from her. She frankly kind of scares him. And so when she sends word through his family that she wants to meet with him, he initially agrees, but then doesn't show up. Pretty smart move. And it was later that day, on February 14th, 1994, that Dana would go on to murder Norma Davis, the first killing that we talked about, the 86-year-old woman who was slain in her own home. Bill Gray would later find out that Dana had taken out a life insurance policy on him and that the policy would have paid off the Canyon Lake house in the event of his death. So she undoubtedly, on that day that she killed... She would later, that she went on to kill Norma Davis. She was planning to kill Bill, her technically her husband at the time, but they were going through the divorce proceedings. She was planning to kill him that day.
I wonder.
By him
I wonder
not showing
how,
up, she went on to the next best thing and killed Norma Davis.
I wonder if she was trying or planning to kill him with the opioids, with like an overdose. Because if she couldn't kill this 57-year-old woman, how the hell does she expect to kill this man?
Maybe she was. I don't know.
Who was in his
because
30s,
you have to do it in a way
40s.
that she couldn't get caught, obviously, or else she wouldn't get the payout for the life insurance. So
Exactly.
I don't know what her plan was.
I'm thinking maybe she wasn't addicted to painkillers at all. Maybe she was stashing them to crush them up and put them in
maybe
something for him.
she's selling them. Who knows? We know that her biggest thrill was shopping and spending money.
That's true. She could just be selling them. Yeah. Okay.
So after, trying to kill her husband Bill, but him not falling for it, she would go on to kill, as we know, Norma Davis, 86-year-old Norma Davis. She would then kill June Roberts, both of them in their own home in Canyon Lake, and then she would attack Dorinda Hawkins at the antique store. And that's where we're at in the crime line here, detective-wise, them trying to locate this woman. They now have a really pretty detailed description of, a woman in her 30s, 40s, blonde hair. She has a 5-year-old son. They know the son's...
Well, red hair now,
they
right? Freshly dyed red.
And they also know that, that's a good point. The hairdresser also mentioned that the woman that had come in had requested that her hair be cut and dyed from blonde to red. So it seems as though this person, this killer is trying to disguise themselves a bit.
Exactly.
Back to March of 1994, Jerry Ambrust, with whom the police have been trying to, dig into her psyche to try and find whoever she knows that could have be doing these killings, and she's unable to provide them with anything. However, she gets a knock at her door, and she sees her daughter-in-law, Dana, sporting a newly dyed hair job that's her hair is now red. Dana was eager to show off her new red hair and bragged about having a great relationship with her new boyfriend's 5-year-old son. The name, of course, matched the name that the boy had from the hair salon appointment book with which the police had provided Jerry with as well. They said that, this blonde woman would be with this young boy, and here's his name. Everything that her daughter-in-law was telling her in Jerry's mind was just adding up, and she's going, oh, my God. Like,
right? How do you stay cool
everything
in that
that the police
situation?
I know,
how do you
right?
not
You're
freak
just
out
like,
and start to show a panic.
it's like you got a royal flush in your hand, and
Yeah.
you're just trying to play it cool.
yeah,
You're
yeah.
like, holy fuck.
Okay, cool. Oh, I love your hair. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, all the while, your husband's daughter,
Yeah.
your beloved husband's daughter, you are now faced with the fact that she is a serial killer who has been killing your friends,
Yes.
Oof.
Oh God. She's got to be creeped out.
Crazy.
She's like, is she here for me now? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
once
she was
figure
very
that out-
creeped out because as soon as
Dana.
she left, as soon as Dana left, she got her gun and sat there and waited, expecting her to come back. She was expecting to be the next victim, but she was hoping that it would be her husband that came back first, which it was. The next day, Jerry called Detective Greco and told him that she knows who the killer is, and what she was able to provide for him matched up with everything, including the hair being dyed red, the 5-year-old boy, and there was no doubt in Detective Greco's mind that this was the killer, and they got to work obtaining a search warrant for Dana's house in Lake Elsinore. On the afternoon of March 16th, 1994, officers staked out the mobile home where Gray resided with her boyfriend at the time. Once the warrant was approved, they arrested her and took her in for questioning. They also took some of the items from her apartment. At the very least, they had her on forgery and possession of stolen property, so she had a bunch of stolen goods and whatnot, some of which belonged to the victims, which tied her to those crimes.
Right.
In the home, they found jewelry, food, liquor, a ski mask, a purse with nearly $2,000 stuck in the washing machine, and many items of clothing that she had purchased with the dead woman's credit cards. Dana also possessed June Roberts' bank book, using it to withdraw about $2,000, and before the murder, she had taken a key to Roberts' mobile home. In addition, a set of keys found in Gray's home matched those taken from the antique store where Dorinda Hawkins was attacked. So she's tying herself to many of these
Oh, yeah,
crimes.
it's
The
not
only
looking
one she didn't have anything tied with was Norma, the first victim, and she always denies that one because Norma was close with her own family.
Right.
And she had been a caretaker for Norma for a while after Norma had had a car accident. She had actually been tending to this woman's needs and taking care of her and keeping her alive, essentially,
Right.
only to kill her brutally later.
It makes a lot of sense as to why she never. She
was
confessed
ashamed
this.
of killing
She was
Norma
ashamed.
Davis more than the others.
Well, also, I mean, if anybody is going to be there for you while you're in prison, it's going to be your family. And why would you
Yeah.
want to isolate your
Yeah.
family in that
Her
way?
dad ended up sticking by her side.
Yep. Yeah, he sure did. Sure did.
So detectives got Dana in custody. They think this whole ordeal's over. She's not, however, admitting any guilt in these crimes. She's denying. The only thing she'll admit to is some thievery. And that her weakness got the best of her. She played the little girl routine. Did you see her interviews?
Yeah, she did.
It's
Oh,
like she
yeah.
gets that high pitched voice going where we see it a lot of times with female criminals. They try to
Yeah.
I don't know what they're trying to do. They're trying to act as though they're like an innocent little girl.
Right, like they're incapable of doing what they're accused of.
Right.
That's exactly what they're trying to do.
Sadly, detectives, just as they began to interrogate Dana, they learned about another murder that had occurred, a murder of an 87-year-old woman named Dora Beebe in Sun City, California. And sadly, they would learn that they had just been a few hours too late in taking in Dana Gray into custody because the day that they were staking her out, the day that they had arrested her, earlier in that day, she had killed an 87-year-old woman, Dora Beebe. Earlier that day, on March 16th, 1994, Dana had killed Beebe after following her home from a doctor's appointment and the bank. She'd seen this older woman go to the bank and take out cash. She then followed her to
Right.
her home, pulled up in front of her house, and knocked on the door. She asked for directions. Dora, seeing, a pretty young woman not seeing her as much of a threat, allowed her into her home where she looked at a map. Once inside, Dana attacked and killed BB, strangling her with a telephone wire and beating her brutally with an electric clothing iron. BB was found later that day by her boyfriend after an hour. An hour after the murder, Dana used Dora's credit cards to go on a shopping spree. So, I mean, the police had been staking her out on this shopping spree. Meanwhile, she had just killed this elderly woman.
Right.
It's crazy, man.
Yeah.
They literally missed
They're
her by
sitting
a
here
few
watching
hours.
her spend her money.
Yeah. Man, it's a bummer.
That's so creepy.
Finally, behind bars, Dana now faced a mountain of evidence and a living witness / victim. Dorinda Hawkins positively identified Dana Gray through a photo lineup as the woman that had attacked her in the antique store. Detectives Antoniadis attempted to obtain a confession after Detective Grieco's interview, but was unsuccessful, so they're both not able to get her to admit guilt in the murders of these women. Detective Greco eventually booked Gray on charges of murder, and she faced a strong possibility of the death penalty. And being faced with that, and knowing that there was no getting around all the evidence that was in front of her, she would initially plead insanity on all accounts, but after a witness claimed to have seen her at June Roberts' house the day of her death, she changed her plea to guilty of robbing and murdering the two women and attempting to murder another. So she would finally plead guilty. The only one she wouldn't admit to was Dora, her first murder, and that was because, like we said, she was so ashamed of that one that she was a
because
close
she was
family member.
That's right.
By pleading,
I understand that.
And by pleading guilty, she basically took a plea deal. And by pleading guilty, she avoided the death penalty. And on October 16th, 1998, she was sentenced to life without parole and was incarcerated in the California Women's State Prison in Chowchilla.
Chowchilla.
The state decided not to prosecute her, as we mentioned, on the murder of Norma Davis, the first victim, due to a lack of physical evidence. But people close to this case, they believe that it was kind of a deal that Dana was able to make up with the DA, and that she said, "Fine, I'll give you a confession on the others, but it can't involve Norma Davis because that would basically write me off my family forever. My family would write me off." And
That's right.
So even though I'm
makes
sure the
sense.
family members know she did it, they at least can plead ignorance on it.
Yeah. At least she won't go down in history with that being charged to her.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I think that's all she really cared about at this time. And someone as narcissistic as her, someone as self-absorbed, this is a serious offense towards her.
Right.
If her whole family thinks that way of her, even her father,
Mm-hmm.
you know, a father's opinion means a lot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Especially if you had or a parent, a mother or a father, their opinion means a lot to someone. I mean, even when they're older, especially if they had a good relationship with them.
That's right.
And when you're in prison and you know you're going to prison for life, and also the prosecutors know that as well. They know she's going to prison for life. They know she's not getting out. They're like, what's the point in pushing this issue?
Yeah, and they know the public knows. Everyone knows that she killed Norma Davis. No one's.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's like, is she going to get killed if she gets convicted of Norma Davis's murder? No.
Right.
I mean, she's still going to be doing life.
Right.
So
and sadly, they didn't have a whole lot of evidence in the Norma Davis case. All they had was that shoe print. So
right, and it's a popular shoe.
Yeah.
I mean, damn, everybody was wearing Nikes, and then a size 6. That's a pretty.
And she didn't seem to keep.
Size for
She didn't seem to keep anything from Norma Davis's crime scene either. So like she did
that
the
was
others.
Smart. Yeah. Well, maybe she just killed Norma just so her mother-in-law would start helping them. She's like, okay, now Norma's gone. Now help me.
Yeah, I could see that. We mentioned she resented her mother-in-law for taking care of her mother-in-law's mother-in-law.
Yeah.
So.
She resented Jerry for it, right?
Yeah.
For taking care of Norma.
Yeah.
When, I mean, obviously Norma needed someone to take care of her.
I've got some excerpts from a book on this case that give you a little insight into how cold and callous this woman was and what she did following these murders. Here's an excerpt from To Die For, the shocking true story of serial killer Dana Sue Gray by Kathy Braidhill. this is in regards to this excerpt is following the murder of June Roberts, her second victim. It says, quote, less than an hour later, the Cadillac was parked in front of the Bally's Wine Country Cafe in Temecula, where Roberts' killer puffed cigarettes and frowned at a small boy running around the tables. She charged the crab cake and scampi to Roberts' credit card. It was too much to eat, so the waiter packed the rest to go. The next shop was an eyebrow wax and perm for herself and a fashionable cut for the boy. Signing the $164 charge to June Roberts, she then told the stylist she was on a shopping spree. She spent $511 on a black suede jacket and several pairs of cowboy boots, $161 on a pair of diamond drop earrings, all charged to Roberts. Heading home, she swung by a drugstore and picked up dog treats and 2 bottles of Smirnoff. On the way to the checkout counter, she paused in the toy aisle and tossed a $5.99 toy police helicopter into her basket. So
Right, get something for the boy. Really spoil him.
Oh, and by the way, we didn't mention, this little boy was in the car in the driveway at June Roberts' home when she went in to kill June Roberts. He was waiting in the car for her while she killed June Roberts. They went on the shopping spree directly afterwards. They went straight from her home to the shopping mall to go do all this fun shopping.
That's right. And that actually became a big detail in the case, because later when she claimed insanity, the psychologist pointed to that, and they're like, well, if you were so insane, how'd you know to shield a child
from what you were doing
from a horrible experience, right? Obviously, you cared enough about this child so that he didn't see what happened.
Or you cared enough that he might say something about it and get you busted.
He might say something. Well, yeah. Yep. Either way, you knew that this was the wrong thing to do. So that actually came back to bite her in the ass that day.
Yep.
For sure.
Yeah, that was cool how in the documentary the psychologist explained how it all works. And in regards to the justice system, insane doesn't mean you can have a mental illness and still be charged with murder. It's all about, and we've talked about this time and time again, it's all about whether you were aware of what you were doing was wrong. And of course she was, because she went through many layers to cover up her own tracks. And like you said, shielding the young boy from seeing that, and also at the same time keeping his mouth shut because he didn't know what had occurred. So, there was premeditation and thought on this after and before.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
One more excerpt from this book, and this is in regards to her changing her plea to guilty. It says, quote, Gray was housed for her own safety in the Riverside's jail high security unit. She adapted quickly to jail, dubbing it her county condo, and hectored her jailers to provide a semblance of her high-maintenance civilian lifestyle. She insisted on a vegetarian diet, demanded a visit from her chiropractor, bemoaned the absence of a mirror, and dashed off an impressive volume of letters in the disposition of her belongings. She drew chilling clown faces a la John Wayne Gacy, with paintings cobbled together from M&M's candy coating, cherry drink mix, blue eye shadow, lipstick, and baby powder. Refusing the cheap Nikes brought to her by her family on a visit, she demanded the high-end models to which she was accustomed. So still trying to live this extravagant lifestyle from behind bars, and I'm sure she's been able to sell some of these paintings she's done of other serial killers using all of the items she could find in her cell. I think I did see something that was for sale that she had done from behind bars, really? Those people that sell that stuff. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if that's too smart funding this bitch's lifestyle in there.
No, but it's interesting to look at the art.
It is. I'll look at it. I'm just not going to buy it.
Right, exactly. The psychologist broke it down and was talking about how some of the clowns look like they were self-portraits and whatnot. But I don't know. I feel like it's a little bit of a stretch. But it could be, because she is so self-absorbed.
Oh, definitely a narcissist.
She's extremely narcissistic, self-absorbed. I don't know why she would take the time to do any type of art that wasn't about her.
Right.
So, and we find, I think, inadvertently, when we create art, there's a piece of ourselves in it. That's what makes art, right? I mean, that's kind of the point. But it doesn't change the fact that her intentions of doing the art were probably for no other reason than to get publicity and get money.
Exactly.
That would be my opinion. Whereas John Wayne Gacy was doing these weird paintings and being a clown long before anybody knew about it, Yeah. So I thought that was interesting. It's like she's trying to do the serial killer thing, because you got to think, when she was arrested in the 90s, we already went through the 60s, 70s, and 80s. There was a way that serial killers acted, and there were people getting attention for acting this certain way. And so her not, what she's like, this is who I am now, so I have to find my identity and who this person is serving life. So I'm going to do what serial killers do and be popular, and here we are discussing her. So
That's right.
I guess it worked to a certain extent.
All right.
So
Yeah.
it's Dana Gray.
Dana Gray.
Old Dana Gray.
Dana Gray. That was a different,
So-
definitely a different type of female serial killer. I don't know if we've done one like that. We've done, obviously, it's the typical mode. It seems like for female serial killers is like indirect, like poisoning a lot of times.
Yeah.
Maybe a gun, but the hands-on approach that Dana took was definitely rare.
It was, and that's what kind of kept her victim class such a small class of elderly women. I think,
defenseless.
Too. Because Dana wasn't a big woman.
Right.
I don't think she could even strangle a woman that her age and size.
No, I mean,
I don't.
yeah, I agree.
So
I agree.
Yeah,
Not
I
without
don't
a
think
fight,
she
that's for sure.
could.
It would be a fight, and
Exactly.
it would get messy.
Exactly. But also, it seemed like she was into that type of thing. She was into that rush, that fight, because there was lots of. I mean, I hate to say it, but there was a lot easier ways that she could have tackled these victims.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? She didn't have to be so brutal.
She got off on the
And,
power of it.
so sadistic.
Of them being,
Yeah.
in her complete control in that moment, like we've seen so many times with other serial killers.
No doubt.
All
Well,
right.
You know what? Let me help you take control of your BO. With Oh My Gaia. Ha ha! I like that segue there. I just keep talking until I can find one.
Yeah.
But Oh My Gaia is an innovative, all-natural deodorant, fragrance, and beard oil company specializing in paraben and aluminum-free products. Their innovative line of deodorants inhibit the growth of odor-causing bacteria while maintaining effectiveness. At Oh My Gaia, they use only all-natural, paraben, and aluminum-free organic ingredients. And guys, there's definitely a scent that will fit your style, from vanilla to cherry almond to sandalwood, lavender, lemongrass, Egyptian musk, coconut. What's up, Lauren? You got some scents?
No, you're good.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I heard you say something. I thought you wanted to add something to the ad here. But coconut, dreamsicle, leather, lumberjack, honeysuckle, fireside. There are new scents always being added, like pear. I think bergamot amber is still somewhat of a new scent. That is a great scent as well. My daughter and my wife, they both love bergamot amber and pear. And we have our very own scent called True Crime Pine, guys, made especially for true crime guys. The little seal on the jar is our old school podcast logo. It's pretty cool. I like to keep a few jars on hand them out to family members and stuff, and create more Oh My Gaia fans that way. So, because you guys are True Crime Guys listeners, you can use the word CREEPER, CREEPER, and you can get 15% off your order. And you can do that at shop_ohmygaia on Instagram or at ohmygaia.com. And that's OHMYGAIA.com. Guys, stop putting aluminum in your armpits. Get you some all-natural deodorant that actually smells good, works, and feels great.
And
Do
you
it.
get a discount
Won't regret
on
it.
because you listen to the show, and you can get
That's right.
a limited edition. Well, it's not limited edition. It seems like it. Our logo. You can get True
Yeah.
Crime Pine and have that up on the shelf, and it's just kind of a nice collector's item.
That's right. Even if you're not into it, you should get a jar of True Crime Pine.
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, how many other true crime podcasts have their own deodorant? Come on.
Not one that I've ever heard of.
I can't think of one. I mean, I'm sure they haven't tried, but that's besides the point.
And actually, one of the reviews we're going to read real quick from for the podcast, they actually give a shout out to Oh My Gaia in here. Nessie BV
Oh, hell yeah.
in the U.S. said, new to the show and loving it. 5 stars. You guys have a great chemistry, and I enjoy your banter. Listen to everything True Crime, and your show is my new favorite. Found you through True Crime Garage, and I've even ordered some Oh My Gaia, and it's amazing. Keep creeping.
Right on. Found us
So
through
she
True
clicked
Crime
on us
Garage.
because she thought we were True Crime Garage, apparently.
Oh, that's probably what happened. Yeah. She was like, what was that podcast you said? True Crime Guys? No. True Crime Garage. Oh, well, I found True Crime Guys. They're great. That's how I imagine it happens, man. And people click on that stuff. That's how it happens. People just glance at words. My dad's one of the worst. He glances at words and he'll be like reading it. I'm like, Dad, that's not what that says at all.
All right.
It's not. Nope. Take one more look. Yeah. Very different words there. But
We
It's
got
just
one
funny.
more here. Darrell loves the
All right.
80s in the U.S. Said refreshing. 5 stars. These guys are fantastic. Make me laugh several times an episode without being totally raunchy. A great lighthearted approach to the true crime storytelling podcast. Highly recommend. So thank you,
Right
Darrell
on.
and Nessie BV.
Cool. Thank you guys so much, man. The reviews really help, guys.
Yep.
If you don't want to write something, you don't have to. Just go in there, click 5 stars, help some other people out. Keep those ratings up. Let them know that they're going to get a quality show here on True Crime Guys. But the best way, honestly, is just tell your friends. Tell your friends, share on social media. If you guys share a story on Instagram, we'll share it at True Crime Guys on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. And you guys can go to truecrimeguys.com and find links to just about everything we have. We even have a whole nother show. A whole nother. That's right. That's what I said.
That's not
I
a
hate when
word.
people say
My
that.
buddy gets mad
I know.
when people say whole nother.
I know. Listen, dude, I hate that I say it.
It's
but I
whole
can't help
other.
it.
He
And my
says
kids say
he says it's whole other, but I would argue whole nother gives you more descriptive idea of what's going on, because a whole nother means it's another of the same, whereas a whole other makes it sound like something different.
Yeah. Like this is a whole thing, but it's another thing like that. Right? So that's
he
why
brought
I
a whole
say
other
nother.
pizza. To me, it's like, okay, is that one pepperoni? But if he says it's a whole
Right.
nother pizza, then it's the same of whatever we have. If we have pepperoni
the
here,
same-
it's another pepperoni.
Thank you, Lauren. Thank you. That makes perfect sense. Anyways, so in instance, we have another True Crime Guys production show, and it's a whole nother show.
No, it's
okay?
a whole other
True
because
Crime
it's
Guys.
different.
It is different. It is different, but it's a lot of our voices still.
Yeah.
It's a lot of me rambling about unsolved cases, missing persons, strange phenomena, cults, and all that stuff. And of course, towards the end of the show, if you guys are unfamiliar, Lauren comes in with the Lauren synopsis. He breaks down the case like cardboard boxes, and he sums everything up all nice and neat, puts a bow on it. And then I reference the things he says at the end, do some housekeeping. It's a different format. There's a lot more audio, there's interviews, there's 911 calls, stuff like that is featured in as well. But you guys can find Strange and Unexplained under the True Crime Guys umbrella anywhere you listen on any podcast platform. Strange and Unexplained. If you just search True Crime Guys, it should pull up. You'll see the 2 velociraptors on the logo. But if you guys have already burnt through all the True Crime Guys material, check that out. It'll keep you busy for a little while. I think we just released episode 39 this past Monday. So, and those episodes are released every Monday. You can also join Patreon for True Crime Guys and
That's
Strange
the best
and
way to help
Unexplained.
the show, flat on. If you got $2
that is
to
the number
spare,
one way.
or if you got
Yes.
$21 for a year, you're done for the next year.
You are done.
All of 2021, you could be done, just $21. And you get access to
right.
all of our premium content. Well, not all of it. You don't get just the banter, but you get all of our premium episodes. The one episode we do a month that's not on our free feed that you
Right.
get for $2 a month. You get access to all those. There's a shitload of them on there. In our
Right. And
backlog.
sometimes I release the intros early on Patreon, so you guys can kind of get a hint of what the case is going to be. Sometimes I'll get the intro done a few days early, and people like to get on there and guess what the case is going to be about.
Yep.
Sometimes I try not to give it away on those, so some of them I won't release on purpose just because it's too much of a giveaway.
Right.
But that's neither here nor there. But there's also a full catalog of Higher Thoughts with me, where I did like 35 episodes when I lived in Nevada. So the 35 episodes of Higher Thoughts is a complete disc set, if you will, available only in
You
digital.
can find it either at
on
antique
Patreon.
stores or on patreon.com.
That's right. It's right next to the license plates.
Right.
So yeah, guys, there's lots of stuff under the True Crime Guys umbrella, but patreon.com/True Crime Guys and patreon.com/S&U podcast.
All right, are we done?
So-
we done rambling?
I think we're done, man. The merch, truecrimeguys.threadless.com, guys. Check out our merch. There's links to all of our merch. Get some True Crime Guys stickers, shirts, hoodies, mugs, fucking mouse pads, whatever the hell you want.
That's right.
Masks for COVID. We have all that stuff available.
There you go.
Check the links below the description, guys. All right, I'm done.
Is it Patreon next week? I feel like it's coming
It
back
is.
around. Patreon next week?
Yes.
Well, there you go.
Yes,
No
the
better
first
time to join
episode, January.
Patreon. You're not going to hear us on the free feed next week. The only way you can hear our episode next week is on Patreon. Otherwise, freeload us. If you're not going to join, then that's all cool with us. We'll see you the following week in 2021 with a free episode.
Yes, we will. We will see you January 13th.
There you go. All right, y'all. Happy New Year. Thank you for a great 2020 as far as the podcast goes. We know it hasn't been a great year overall for many people. And
Right.
we hope 2021 is better for everybody and we can get through this.
Absolutely. It will be. It will be. Let's go.
All right. See you next week. Keep creeping.
Keep creeping, guys.
True crime guys, in the desert we like a mirage. It's okay if you clicked on us cause you thought we was True Crime Garage. Now we ain't mad at you, Sit down, let us talk at you. I'm talking to the creeper army. We out here making murder, get murder, get murder. True crime guys. In the desert, we like a mirage. It's okay if you clicked on us, cause you thought we was True Crime Garage. Now we ain't mad at you. Sit down, let us talk at you. I'm talking to the creeper army. We out here making murder charming.